Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Inip Street NOLA and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here with the Crimson Cadaverous. And we
Hi.
are here sort of in outer space and sort of virtually. There's a lot going on with us this week.
Yes. But
So
we're
just
kind of doing this like a podcast.
right. We're bringing some podcast vibes.
Yeah.
We are doing this on Tuesday. I had to go to the doctor and get an emergency operation on Sunday, but I'm feeling much better. And Helen was nice enough to wait it out and help us do our weekly celestial chat on Tuesday.
Yes.
So I just look a little pasty. So that's why you guys can look at my mermaid's boobies. Okay, so we missed Monday.
Yes. But we did have some pretty powerful energy that I feel like we're still sitting in that's worth at least mentioning.
Okay.
We did have the moon in Libra square the sun, which gave us the first quarter moon. So we are still definitely experiencing that square.
Okay.
Which is first quarter moon square is a call to action, a challenge to, put forth effort towards our new moon intentions and, the things that we want.
Yes.
We also had the same day Mercury entering Cancer. So moving into a space where we can write some more nurturing narratives about ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely am writing some new narratives about my home space, which is my body.
Yes.
Space,
yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that's important to mention. Like Cancer speaks to the home, but the home means so many different things.
Right.
So yeah, the home that we live in, the home of our body, the home of our planet, the home of the universe. So yeah, we're definitely kind of thinking, over these next like 3 weeks or so that we've got Mercury in Cancer, we definitely have our thoughts kind of on that, that idea of home and how we nurture ourselves within whatever we call our homes.
That's perfect.
We also had Mars squaring Uranus, which I feel like is important to mention because we started the week off with Mars squaring Uranus and we'll end the week with Venus squaring Uranus.
Okay.
Which I think is interesting energy that we can kind of talk throughout the week.
Yeah. I saw what happened when Mars squared my Uranus. So
yes.
Can't wait to see what happens when Venus does.
Yes.
These are jokes. Okay. All right, Tuesday. Go ahead.
Yep. Today we're moon in Libra. So some balancing energy, sextiling Venus, Lilith, Mars, Pallas Athena, encouraging us to, find balance between the feminine and the masculine energies within us.
Yeah, that's how I read that for sure.
Yeah, just as we kind of strategize liberating ourselves from anything that keeps us from that balance.
Yeah. I see that.
We also got Mercury forming a sextile with the North Node. Which again speaks to the narratives. So, we have Mercury now in Cancer. So writing, we're writing that more nurturing narrative about, our home space. But with it sextiling the North Node, it's like that new narrative is the thing that is kind of like writing us our new pathway, like showing us the way to move forward.
Yep. In being like just feeling good about it, like in a practical sense, with Taurus.
Yes.
And I want to say this too, like sometimes when I talk about being practical, you can still be practical and still feel scared.
Yes.
That both can happen. So just know that, you guys, like you can feel practical, like this is the most practical thing to do. And use discernment at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say about today?
Squaring Chiron and Eris. The moon is squaring Chiron and Eris. I think that's just important for, kind of clearing away the debris of old wounds, moving past things, understanding, healing.
Healing. Yes.
Yes.
And they're both in Aries, correct?
Yes. Chiron and Eris are both in Aries currently.
Yeah. So that's good. That's a good initiation to get rid of those, to keep getting rid of those.
Yes, again, just keep clearing away.
Keep clearing away, and then again, because we're in Cancer season, you know, it's going to be more about the home and what's going on in the home and what we see as the home.
Yes.
And that's how the story changes, even though planets stay in the same, what do you call it? Planet for a while. Or planets, how they stay in the same signs for a while.
Yes.
I hope that made sense.
It did.
Okay. After the correction. Okay, so Wednesday, the moon will be in Libra in the morning.
Yes. And right before moving into Scorpio is going to square off with Pluto. So very, heavy Scorpio Pluto vibes. The square is already a challenge. So it's definitely a day where, we're going to be, challenged to dig deep into our feelings, let things transmute and transform. We got a square with also the North Node and Jupiter. So it's like, amplifying our need to, kind of excavate and move, in the direction of our destiny, I guess you would say, with the North Node. But it's definitely a day of challenges, which of course, when we have those challenges, we understand that those are our opportunities for leveling up.
Right.
That's definitely an important thing to ground in during times like that. We also have some interesting things going on that don't involve the moon that day. We've got Venus forming a conjunction with Lilith, which is a really strong feminine energy there.
Right.
And then we also have Mercury forming a conjunction with Juno. So Venus conjunct Lilith, I just kind of read that as like, Venus is our value system and love and beauty and self-worth, and Lilith is, the liberator. So like she kind of extracts anything that is inauthentic, kind of distills us down to our true selves. So when we see that, it's like, anything that doesn't align with our values, it's just going to need to go. We're just going to have to kind of cut it out.
Yeah. It's important to remember with Venus, we were talking about any feminine sign, but especially with Venus and Lilith, Venus sign, or the feminine energy is what receives.
Yes.
And so the fact that this Venus and Lilith energy in Leo is there receiving, like you said, she knows her self-worth. She doesn't have to go out there and find it.
Yeah.
Because it's in Leo, she's now sitting in this new energy of being self-assured, self-reliance. She knows who she is. And then Mercury conjunct Juno in Cancer. Mercury.
I like that because again, we keep talking about Mercury this week and writing new narratives.
Right.
And I feel Juno is commitment, so it's like committing to those new narratives we're writing.
Right, especially in that Cancer, again, that's more of that. Cancer is initiation as well. It's water. And just to go back to, the moon is in Scorpio, so I feel like the way we're going to get through this day on Wednesday is really tap into our intuition, and also realize that we need to see what's coming to us, and then we need to write that narrative of what we do want to come to us.
Yes. And I think, we do have some like really strong energy though with that sun forming a trine with Saturn. To me, I just see that as like being able to build authentic foundations, like ones that aren't going to crumble, not, faulty, faulty things that we're building upon, where we can actually build something solid and be true to us.
And that sun is what rules that Leo. That's our self-esteem. So
yes,
I agree with what you're saying. It's building things that we can believe in, that we know that are positive, that we want to show in the light, be happy about.
Yep.
Okay, so Thursday, the moon will still be in Scorpio.
Yes. I feel like that is another day of squares. The moon in Scorpio squaring Venus, Lilith, and Mars in Leo, and then also Uranus and Taurus. So we've got a T-square.
It's a big day.
A point of tension, basically, which of course we always say when we're trying to break the tension with that. just meet the challenges that, are being presented to us, so that we can kind of break that tension. And to me, on that, I mean, especially because the moon is in Scorpio, again, tapping into our intuition, kind of like the murky waters of things that we don't quite have, all the explanation for, but we kind of just know.
Right.
And then again, squaring Venus and Mars, that same energy where we had the sextile with Venus and Mars, kind of balancing our feminine and our masculine. This is going to be more of a challenge. It's not going to come, necessarily as easily, but it is something that we're going to, work through so that we can, again, meet those challenges.
Right, because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and there is going to be some sort of transformation here.
Yes. And it's interesting because Lilith and Uranus are both liberators. So they both awaken us and like just kind of pull us back to our truth. And I just kind of think, again, with like Venus and Mars being there, it's like something about our truth that we do, have the divine masculine and the divine feminine within all of us. And, the need to nurture both.
I agree. All right.
And then also on that day have Venus trining Chiron. Which I really like. Like, I actually see this as a really courageous energy because Venus is still going to be in Leo.
Right.
And a trine, of course, is harmonious. Chiron also is in a fire sign, Aries. That's why they're trining. Yes. And I just see that as like almost like using, seeing the value in our wounds, seeing the value in the things that we've gone through.
Right. Really clearly. Really clearly, I have to say that really clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Friday.
Yes, another big day, actually.
Wow, this is a big week.
It is. It's funny because, like, I mean, obviously we had the first quarter moon, but like we're not doing like a full moon, new moon this week, but we've got all these other things going on. That's a big day for a variety of different reasons, mainly because Neptune is stationing retrograde.
Right.
Which Neptune, of course, is the planet of like dreams, the unconscious, the intangible, illusions, the murky, waters. And a lot of times when Neptune stations retrograde, which of course happens for actually about half of the year, around the time that Neptune stations, we do see some like unveiling of, secrets, illusions, things that we just weren't maybe aware of.
Yeah.
So that's really something to kind of keep an eye out for and just, remain grounded, especially because we've got Mercury, again, very active that day, forming a trine with Saturn and a conjunction with the sun. So again, that's like illuminating things, in a very like structured, stable way.
Yeah, making it clearer how to speak about things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good because it's like if we have things kind of like, have those like aha moments, like those things revealed to us, we're going to want that strong, stable mind to be able to kind of process those things.
Yeah. Especially if it's like, especially if it's kind of something that comes out of the blue.
Yeah, exactly. And again, with Neptune, I feel like that's kind of like exactly that energy.
Yeah, Neptune. And remember, you guys, like when these planets start stationing retrograde, we can feel it. So just be tapped into how you're feeling that day. Drink lots of water.
Yep.
Okay, so where does the moon stay in Scorpio all day? I know it moves into Sagittarius.
Eventually ends up moving into Sagittarius.
Okay, so that's some good energy.
Yes, yes. So we're actually moving into July because, of course, we're talking about Friday, the last day of June. Moving into July, we actually have some like a little bit more lighter, funner energy that we're moving into.
Okay, perfect. Some jovial energy.
Yeah, thank goodness, because it is a little, don't want to sound too daunting, but it is a little heavy this week. So
that's okay. That's okay.
We're going to be using our shovels to dig. So that's right.
Like
moon Sagittarius, that's definitely like a really fun energy. But the main interactions with the moon that day turns into basically a grand fire trine because we've got a trine between the moon with Lilith and Venus in Leo and Chiron in Aries. So trines, like, or grand trines, are always a very harmonious energy.
Mhm.
Um, it flows really well because it's like all three signs in the same element.
Mhm.
And then with fire, of course, it's a very passionate energy. Definitely something that like can help us like spark, some
Yeah.
ideas, get things moving.
And that's important too, that you keep bringing up that part about like spark and get things moving. Sagittarius is the adventurer.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready to go on some new adventures. He's tired of all these old stories.
Yep, exactly. And that's interesting that you bring up that because we also have Jupiter, who of course is Sagittarius ruler,
Mhm.
forming a sextile with Mercury, so narratives,
Yeah.
and the sun on that same day.
Yeah. This is
So we
good.
definitely have like Jupiter kind of coming in on Saturday, the beginning of July, going, all right, I know it's been a little heavy, but let me just sprinkle a little luck on things, make it a little happier.
He's
Um,
he's
and
coming
kind
in
of give
yelling, "Who wants their independence? Let's go get
almost
it."
like giving us like back our zest for life, like that
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Sunday the 2nd,
Yes.
the moon will
So
still be in Sag.
yes, but then we eventually move into Capricorn. So we
Mhm.
are kind of settling down a little bit. Which I actually kind of like that energy of moving into Capricorn on that day because we also have that second square that I was talking about with Uranus with Venus this time. So Venus will square Uranus on the same day. So we do still have that kind of like challenging, sudden upheaval kind of energy of like things coming up, challenges that we need to deal with.
Right.
And this time we're dealing with Venus. So, of course, Venus is the divine feminine,
Mhm.
our self worth, our value system, art, beauty, all those things.
And
Um,
what's really interesting, can I interrupt you for a second? Venus rules Taurus.
yes.
And Taurus is like earth and, practicality, and Venus is an earth goddess.
Yes.
So it's so funny that for millions of, not millions, don't quote me on that one, but for lots of years, they always made her as like really bitchy and shallow.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because she's like, the feminine archetype, of course.
And she's like the exact opposite of that if you just do a little digging about who she is and what she represents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is interesting.
Yeah.
Where I thought you were going with that, I thought you were going with that Venus rules Taurus, or and then like talking about Uranus being in Taurus.
Yeah, I mean that's happening as well.
Yeah, which I think it's kind of interesting because again, if we're talking about, you know, our value systems and maybe seeing like some changes within that,
Mm-hmm.
Venus obviously, rules values, but of course so does Taurus too.
Yep.
Taurus, specifically speaks of like money and like tangible possessions. Um, I mean, I definitely see that as almost like the energy of like challenging us to release some things that we don't need anymore.
I agree. Because
And like,
Venus knows her
yeah,
self-worth and she's in Leo.
yeah. And
And
I
Leo,
think that would be a really good way of us like kind of moving some energy is maybe just to get rid of some stuff that we know we don't really like, almost like again, Marie Conduit. You pick it up if you don't really care about it anymore, you get rid of it.
because Uranus is going to zap it and obliterate it anyway.
Yes. So we might as well just do it and like be at peace with doing it rather than have it like ripped away from us and be like spending emotional labor on something we don't really need or want anyways.
Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, is there anything else you want to say about that day?
Well, I think the last thing I would say, which is really interesting because it's kind of completing this like Mars Venus story we've had all week,
Mm-hmm.
is Mars trining Eris. So in astrology, they are siblings. I understand in Greek mythology they may not be considered as such, or would that be Roman mythology?
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
well, let's see. Mars is Roman and Eris is Greek. Am I right about that? Don't quote me on that. But so yeah, they definitely aren't, in mythology, but in astrology they are. So
Yeah.
they're siblings. So they've got similar energies of kind of, the god and goddess of war, whatever you want to say. And Mars is our power center. Eris, to me, I feel like she's kind of our power too, because she helps us like kind of disrupt anything that is making us less powerful.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that as like, with the trine energy, like I see us easily being able to move past anything that isn't keeping us in our power.
I think that's a really good way to interpret that, especially with the fact with Neptune stationing and turning retrograde, so you can see things clearer.
Yes.
And then with what you just said, I think that really resonates very well.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think, it's interesting because at the very beginning of the week after, or I should say next week, because we're already in this week. So the 3rd, I'm skipping ahead, but only because I want to mention that this entire week is building up to the Capricorn full moon early Monday morning on the 3rd.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's like all the work we're doing this week, we are doing that work for the Capricorn full moon. And the Capricorn full moon, of course, is ruled by Saturn, because that's rules Capricorn. And so when we think about it that way, Saturn always wants us to do our homework. If we take all of these challenges that we face this week and we just actually accept them for better or worse, I actually see some like really big rewards coming through for us with that full moon.
Some really big breakthroughs for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you for that little tidbit at the end there. That makes it all worth it.
Right. I just wanted to add that in because I'm like, we've talked about a lot of squares. So I just want it's almost like having like the obstacle course where it's like you jump all the hurdles, but you get to the end for a reason.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you, Helen, so much for doing this a couple days late.
That's all right. Better late than never.
I agree. And so next week we'll be back, hopefully with our smiling faces.
Yes, we will be.
Okay, we will be. Until then, if you guys have any questions, be sure you can reach out to us via YouTube, Instagram, or our emails, and then also websites. And you can always get in touch with Helen through Medusa's Lair as well. That is also on Instagram.
Yep.
Okay, you guys, till next time.
All righty. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.